Today on Connecticut Yankee Sanity, we'll talk about the triumph of socialism in Venezuela. As I record this video, the country is just starting to recover from a nationwide power outage, which is being blamed, like everything else, on the United States. The good news is that it's the first outage since March. Imagine it, almost 4 months without the country's power grid going down. That's real socialist progress for you. Before socialism, when I was traveling to Venezuela regularly, Carlos Andrés Pérez was the elected president, and the capital, Caracas, bustling with activity. Its traffic jams made Los Angeles gridlock look like the Indy 500. There were good hotels, excellent restaurants, and a robust cultural life. My young, idealistic Venezuelan business colleagues were proud of their democratically elected government. Unfortunately, though, it didn't last. In 1992, during Perez's second presidency, an obscure army officer named Hugo Chavez carried out a ludicrously disorganized coup d'etat. It landed him in the slammer, but 7 years later, he got the last laugh. Perez, impeached and convicted for embezzlement, did time himself, and Chavez was the new ruler. It's bad form to speak ill of the dead, which Chavez has been for the past 6 years or so, but a few candid comments are unavoidable. Although he coyly denied it, he was a Marxist. He admired Che Guevara and the Castros, and was pals with other left-wing strongmen in the region. Initially, he enjoyed popularity and apparent success with his Bolivarian revolution, spending Venezuela's oil revenues on social programs, borrowing money, nationalizing businesses, and handing out toaster ovens to the country's poor. Any problems that arose, he blamed on the colossus to the north, just like now. Life improved for a while. But by 2012, when it became apparent that Cuba's doctors couldn't cure him of his cancer, and Chavez knew he was headed for wherever Marxist dictators go when they depart this life, his popularity had faded. His handpicked successor, Nicolás Maduro, inherited growing social unrest, a failing economy, and a crumbling infrastructure. To elevate the tone of this revolutionary socialist dream scheme, Chavez had traded shamelessly on the legacy of its namesake, Simón Bolívar, a true South American hero. Maduro couldn't think of anything more clever, so he ran with it too. Ironically, Bolívar, who died in 1830, was of aristocratic Spanish lineage, a scion of one of Venezuela's oldest and wealthiest families, and an admirer of George Washington. He devoted his life to freeing South America from Spanish domination and unifying it politically. He's undoubtedly turning over in his grave at the use to which his name is being put today, and by whom. As a socialist autocrat, Maduro is right out of central casting. His rise to power proceeded stepwise from bus driver to bodyguard to dictator, with an interim stint as foreign minister. He has no high school diploma, but received a year of higher indoctrination in Havana under the auspices of the Union of Young Communists. A controversy on a par with that whipped up over Barack Obama's birth certificate surrounds whether he was actually born in Venezuela, as required by their constitution. His prior political experience consists of having been a member of the student union in high school and an unofficial bus drivers union representative. As dictator, though, he has one bold achievement to his credit. He fixed Caracas's traffic problem. With inflation at 300,000%, the poverty rate at 90%, and food scarce or non-existent, Venezuelans have cut way back on their driving. In the midst of the extensive poverty, disease, and malnutrition socialism has caused in Venezuela, at least Mr. Maduro isn't missing any meals himself. He's quite the butterball. The double-chinned Chavez got his 3 squares a day too, but for the average citizen, the daily struggle to find enough to eat is the main occupation. For me, that's the really cool thing about socialism. The firebrand revolutionaries retailing it to the masses don't expect it to cramp their lifestyle. Its privations are solely for us. They're the ones who, after all, undertake the difficult task of reducing us masses to miserable equality and keeping us there. They need their gourmet meals, limousine service, mansions, servants, the basics, to keep up their strength. Enter, inevitably, the Russians, who, along with their Cuban allies, are always up for a bit of mischief. They've provided Maduro with military advisors and equipment, including a matched set of Tupolev Tu-160 bombers, no doubt with a gift card from Vladimir Putin, or at least a promotional discount coupon. Given that the country's currency isn't worth the paper it's printed on, whether Maduro is paying for any of this loving attention, or if so, how, is a question. Meanwhile, those who can are leaving the country by the millions. Although for the moment it serves mainly as political theater, socialism is all the rage on the American left. While the Democratic leadership twists itself into knots trying to appease the party's radical leftists, and Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Kamala Harris travel around the country promising free stuff to everyone, people living under actual socialist conditions in Venezuela are fleeing them as from a plague. Where do they go to get a bite to eat and a roof over their heads? And never mind medical care? To Colombia, to Brazil, to Peru, to Panama, and yes, here, any place that will take them in. The receiving nations consequently bear the cost of providing for them and getting them back on their feet. In short, they pick up the tab for the socialists' failure to make a decent, dignified life possible wherever they rule. And trust me, while Mr. Maduro is wolfing down his dinner, he's not troubled about that for 1 minute. There are two places only where socialism will work, Winston Churchill said. In heaven, where it's not needed, and in hell, where they already have it, unquote. Accordingly, I offer the following advice to Bernie Sanders, the Squad, and the rest of the American leftist rabble. If you want to know what real socialism is like, go to hell, or alternatively Venezuela, which is closer and a bit cooler. Joe Biden, who is puffing and panting his way to the Democratic nomination preparatory, he imagines, to giving the Trumpster a pasting in the general election, has so far refrained from pandering too much to his party's rowdy socialist teeny-weenies. That's wise. When Maduro is finally assassinated or airlifted out of the country to a cozy setup in Moscow or Managua, socialism's latest failure will be complete. The Democrats will have trouble enough offering their base a reason to vote for them in 2020, other than hating Orange Man bad, without also having to persuade us that socialism is the way for us to go too. You just have to implement it properly. Thank you for watching. Please hit subscribe to support the channel and pass along the link. We'll see you back here next time when the topic will be Elizabeth Warren.